and welcome to this week's edition of the Cauldron. The Cauldron is the program in which we feature various editors coming from the best newsrooms that we have in the country. This is where editors meet to discuss several issues that have a direct bearing on our country. We take time also to get international, to look at things that are happening within the region, on the continent, and overseas. And also we get back into the newsroom to look at the trends in the media circles that are happening in the newsroom. My name is Jawes Banda, and today to do this I have Steve Dakalira, who is the Malawi News Assistant Editor here at Times. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Jawes.
Our very own program, the Cauldron. You know what happens here,
Yes.
and we always give people a chance to understand also an in-depth analysis of things that are happening in the country.
Sure.
Our topic of discussion today, looming hunger. We hear that there are media reports that show that the Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee says that the number of people requiring humanitarian food assistance now stands at 1.5 million. This is 43% lower than the 2.5 million people who faced hunger last year. The country would need about 7.9 billion kwacha to address this particular problem. When we talk about the MVAC, Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee,
Yes.
this is a composition of ministries, departments, and agencies of government, plus the United Nations and other international bodies who take time to assess the issues of nutrition and food availability to the people in the rural areas and in the urban centers, to say, do people have enough to eat or to consume
Yes.
in terms of their households? Now, these are the figures that we have today. What picture are we getting, Steve?
Well, contrasting fortune, if I may say.
Yes.
Because obviously we should be happy with the fact that at least the figure of those who are likely to be affected by hunger has dropped astronomically by about 43%.
43%,
which
yes.
is almost 50%, which is almost half.
Exactly.
So, ordinarily we should have been happier, but there is nothing to smile about when it comes to hunger. Because, like it or not, yes, we might reduce the figures by half, almost by half, but then there are still millions, because we have still about 1.5 million, if I'm not mistaken, people that will require food
assistance.
Yeah, food assistance.
Yes.
So, certainly, it's a tall order for Malawi. Looking at the available resources, but also why I was quick to say it's bringing contrasting fortunes. You also look at the estimates that we have in as far as the tonnage of maize that we are set to have
This year?
this particular year, yes, the season that we have just harvested.
Yes.
The projections have been to the effect that probably we might have more than enough food to go around. But then here we are. Realistically, this is what is coming out following the MVAC report, which shows that I think there might still be a great number of people that need government support, even from relief agencies and others. So, well, it's not as murky as we would want to play it. Yes, there is hunger, but I wouldn't want to overplay it, so to say. Yes, we have hunger. We have had worst scenarios in the country,
yes.
because of the, as I said, the numbers that we have had, but we've managed to contain that. So certainly now the onus is on the government to ensure that it moves with a sense of urgency. Not just government, even for all the other partners that it works with. Yes, I know that certainly the Disaster Management Affairs, Department of Disaster Management Affairs, DODMA, is key to this particular issue, but also there are others that come into play. I remember because some time back, some years back, we had ended up banking on maize, which we had in the strategic grain reserves, but then it eventually turned out that the maize which was there was actually not that owned by the Malawi government, but it was somebody, an international agency, that had actually served its quota in our reserves. So that's why I'm saying we have to move strategically, but also with a sense of urgency. The government, it has to bring together all the other agencies concerned and see a way out so that at least these 1.5 million people should not actually be rendered destitute. Yeah.
All right, Steve, I wanted to look at what has caused the drop in terms of those that will face hunger in this country.
Yes.
This report is citing two, if not three things. It is talking about the availability of better performing seeds and access to fertilizers that has been reduced in terms of the AIP. They are saying these two things have helped that at least productivity should go up, so that it has had an impact on those that would face hunger, both in the rural areas and in the district centers and in the urban centers. Do you think the AIP has had an impact in this particular 43%?
Now we are told that I think we'll have a lot of maize, and there was even talk about having a surplus. But then, be that as it may, I think there are a lot of factors that come into play. It's not just about fertilizer subsidy and what have you. There are some areas that are prone to drought.
Yes.
Yeah, drought.
That was my next question to say.
Yes.
Why are these people facing this particular hunger? What has happened? Was there perhaps an infestation of some pests? Was there a drought, like you are saying? What happened to say these people should face this particular hunger so much so that they would need this particular humanitarian assistance?
Yes, I think you've pointed something very, very important, talking about pests and what have you.
Yes.
I'm sure that people would remember that I think not long ago we had the fall armyworm problem.
Yes, yes.
It has in recent years been persistent, but also, as I pointed out, drought. There are several districts in the country that are prone to drought. Almost each and every year, we get to we get to hear stories about drought affecting a particular area and what have you, but also in other areas we're talking about things like floods and what have you. So when all these put together come into play, as much as you might be pragmatic in your approach to the farming season, these are bound to sort of intervene.
Yes.
Which is why we end up having problems as what we're witnessing now, where we're having a whole 1.5 million people who are going to be food insufficient.
Yes.
So we can never run away from such problems. But as I had indicated earlier, that I think the onus is now on those responsible, the authorities and other partners, on how they are going to address the problem. They have to move in at a supersonic speed.
Yes.
To ensure that at least things do not reach a drastic level. Because the good thing is this acts as an early warning,
Yes.
early warning system, by saying, look, this is the assessment we have made. As far as this season is concerned, these people will require food assistance. Now, as a country, have we already planned? Did we already plan for such unforeseeable happenings?
Yes.
Because that is very, very key. Would have to have problem money, or did we budget and did we set aside money in the budget to cater for such problems?
Because this report is indicating 7.9 billion Malaikwacha as being needed to cater for this particular 1.5 million people who are facing hunger. Do we have the money? That's what you're raising.
Yes, very important.
Yes.
That's 7.9 billion.
That's
a lot of money. Now, if you look at the recent allocations that were made, I think the one that quickly comes to mind is the allocation that was given to, was it ADMAC, if I'm not mistaken, to say, okay, here's some money, you'd have to go and procure maize from the market. That's the one that quickly comes to mind. But in as far as unforeseeable happenings like this, perhaps maybe in the disaster vote, yes, there might have been something that could have been spared for the cause. But then, as we have probably heard, that I think after the assessment, after the MVAC report, the disaster affairs people, that's when now they would have to come up with a national response plan, because now that they have the figures, now they also might have to do the estimation in terms of the money. Yes, it might be 7.9 billion, but also they have to look at several factors. Where will the money come from? Who is going to play what role? And in terms of available resources, perhaps maize that was stashed somewhere that might have been kept in reserve. Do we have enough? And where do we start from? So still a long way to go.
All right. Steve, I wanted to look at one thing here. People have always accused the arrangements that we have in our country to say these people who are facing starvation are the very same people perhaps who also were beneficiaries of the AIP. Last time you spent over 150 billion Malaikwacha giving these people cheap fertilizers, and now they're coming to need again assistance. Are we doing justice to our public pace?
Yes, we can never run away from that factor, that I think issues of floods, and what have you, that actually prevented them from getting the maximum yield that they could earn, then certainly these people deserve to be assisted.
All right.
Yeah.
Steve, two things. You have brought up a very interesting and a very amazing story that we always talk about here in our country.
Yes.
You've talked about the issue of nature. I was once privileged to meet a certain economist in Malawi.
Yes.
I will not mention his name. So this gentleman, he said our country is too close to nature. You've just talked about the issue of nature. Droughts,
Yep.
too much rainfall, which can cause floods, which is also harmful and hazardous to our countries and to our country and the crops, and even an infestation of fall armyworms, like we have seen in the recent past.
Yes.
All these things are occurrences of nature: droughts, floods, and infestation of pests that damage the crop in our maize fields. All these things, like I said, occurrences of nature.
Yeah.
Our country is indeed too close to nature. You've even heard the Reserve Bank of Malawi saying, depending on the good rainfall,
Yes.
we expect the food prices to improve. Depending on the good weather, if the climate is okay, we are a country too close to nature. Was this conclusion by this gentleman, economist, correct?
Probably, yes. I would say I think he wasn't far from the truth. They always come into play now and again.
Should nature decide to turn its ugly face, we are in trouble.
We are in trouble. Now, that is where I was going to, I was heading to. We have also in recent years seen programs that are deemed resilience programs.
Yes.
You know, trying to mitigate impacts of drought. For instance, people have been given alternative crops, tubers, and what have you, sweet potatoes, cassava.
Planting second crops.
Yes, winter cropping.
Winter crop, yes.
Or indeed, yes, where they get to use things like pumps, treadle pumps, and what have you. So there have been alternatives, but then the thing is, are we optimizing use of such initiatives? We also have an initiative that they call rainwater harvest.
Yes.
How much difference has this made?
Yes.
Because had we invested much in such programs, I think problems like these would have by now
Minimized.
Certainly been minimized.
All right. Now, the other thing, Steve, is you've talked about the issue of maybe you are trying to look at issues of irrigation.
Yes.
I spoke to one gentleman from the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. They call it AGRA. They deal very much in terms of looking at the improvement of better seeds, irrigation, issues of agriculture.
Yes.
So a gentleman from AGRA who deals in the matters of irrigation, and he's a soil scientist, he said, when you look at Malawi has got vast arable land suitable or best suited to or for irrigation. But only 7% of the country's arable land is put to irrigation. And when you look at the vast arable land that we have, Malawian farmers always deal on the very same soils or fields that are tired. He talked about soil fatigue. To say the pieces or the parcels of land that our parents were tilling are the very same parcels of land that we are tilling today. The soils are tired and they can't give their best in terms of productivity. Where are we? We talked about the issues of extension workers,
yes,
so that they can go into the villages or the rural areas to give advice to say, maybe should you try rotational farming. You can try several other technologies that would help you come up with the best and huge productivity for your farming.
In fact, that is where I was going. I was about to say, you're now taking us back to an agriculture class. These are the stuff that we were being taught. We were being taught, even right from primary school, if I'm not mistaken. Talk about crop rotation.
Yes.
To say, if this season you have cultivated groundnuts on this particular piece of land,
yes,
piece A, why not crops that you've mentioned, they fall under that particular system, where we can have cassava, sweet potato, and what have you. We are very funny people. You can wake up today, you can have your futari.
Exactly.
You can go and have your pumpkins, but you'd still say, "Oh no, today I think I haven't eaten anything."
Ngoma.
Hey, I still need. I need my nsima. I need We always. I don't know why the obsession with maize, because the thing is, I mean, for some of us, I mean, even without nsima,
we're okay.
We will live for another day.
Rice.
You can take rice. You can take whatever alternatives are available. But I think it's been passed on for ages, for years, to say, oh, if you haven't eaten nsima, then certainly, my friend, you haven't had a meal.
Of course, naturally, nsima features highly as a staple for us. But we should also consider other supplementary type of food that can also help, so much so that we shouldn't be saying we are facing starvation because simply of a lack of maize. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And perhaps maybe that would also explain why, if you noted the figures from the MVAC,
yes,
largely it's the very rural population.
Exactly.
That the numbers are high. When you come to the district centers,
yes,
slightly
getting
better.
low. Yes.
When you come into urban centers, much lower figures of those to be affected. Perhaps that explains that maybe people are now opening up to the fact that I think it doesn't always have to be maize. It doesn't always have to be nsima, especially now with the several programs that people are following, dietary programs and what have you, to say, oh, please, can you reduce your intake of starch and what have you. It appears nsima, especially in urban centers, is not featuring highly as it used to be, probably, which explains why indeed maybe the numbers are lower. But then, let's be realistic. Yes. I know people out there, they're saying, no, gentlemen, you are in Malawi. Speak the language that will resonate with a lot of Malawians. So on that basis, I would still say, yes, I think nsima is the way to go, is what we rely on. But the thing is, we are not doing enough to ensure that we cultivate more than what we are getting at the moment, by exploring other options of winter cropping, irrigation, and we've talked about even Greenbelt Initiative and what have you. That is the way to go. Yes, as it stands, we are told there will be a bumper. There is likely to be a bumper yield. Yes. We might have even a surplus at the end, but then that would not mean anything if we are having a surplus, and yet on the other side we are also having 1.5 million people who are in need of food. So it means the equation will sort of will balance itself out. We might not necessarily even have more maize to spare, more food to spare, because here we are with people who are in need, 1.5 million. Yes, it's a dramatic shift from 2.5 million to 1.5 million, but certainly these are people. These are faces. 1.5 million is no child's play.
Exactly.
That's a lot of people.
They're human beings.
Yeah.
Sure, Steve, my last but one question before we go for break and then come to the international segment. We have a nutrition policy in Malawi.
Yes.
Now, these gentlemen in the Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee, they do not only look at the issue of food availability, but they also consider the aspect of nutrition.
Yes.
Because the nutrition policy says nutrition is a matter of development, because it contributes even to cognitive development of children. How we think, issues of malnutrition, issues of stunted growth, all these issues hint on nutrition. And if the country is to progress and develop, nutrition is very key and central. All these things are the ones that we're discussing today. Food availability. Yeah. Crucial amongst the rest is the issue of food production, food preparation, and food consumption. Are we producing what we need in the required quantities and required quality? To come to the issue of food preparation. How do we prepare our food? Isn't the food overcooked so much so that what is nutritious is removed from the particular food? You look at how we prepare vegetables. Every time we put cooking oil, how we prepare the food. Very crucial when you look at the issue of the nutrition policy. Now, when it comes to the issue of consumption, Are we consuming what is right? Do we have enough for consumption? Do we consume the required quantities? These three things in the nutrition policy feature highly. Where do we go, Steve? From your experience, food production, food preparation, and food consumption.
I'll start with the consumption aspect. I think that's largely where we get it wrong. Because it depends on the portions that you're getting. All right? Do you have all the, now they call them six
food groups?
Yes. Do we have all the required groups within the food that is available, that is on your table, that is on your plate? You find that there is a lot of, say, masamba. There's a lot of, earlier.
Yes.
They're not in the required quantity.
Yes.
Maybe it's unnecessarily high.
The policy calls it food adequacy.
Yes. Or indeed, you might find that something is in minute content.
Exactly.
Now, you might eat a lot of food. You might think, oh, I've had a lot of food.
I'm okay.
I've eaten a lot. But then,
useless.
In terms of, the nutritive value, you've just taken maybe 2 or 3 of the food groups. There's still a lack somewhere. Coming to issue of food preparation,
yes,
it's funny because indeed, like the example you gave about cooking oil,
yes,
most people have been complaining, oh, cooking oil is expensive these days. It's too expensive for my now. There are other alternatives through which food can be prepared.
Yes,
just as our grandfathers, our grandmothers used to prepare back in the village. Why not add a bit of a concoction where you have your vegetables prepared with some groundnut?
Yes,
groundnut flour. Even in the absence of
Nsinjiro.
Yes, Nsinjiro. I was talking about Nsinjiro, but also even sometimes Nkwano Fafwaza would do, where you just put your
very much okay.
Yes, your tomatoes there. You throw your what have you. So even the meat itself, when you have your meat, your chicken, instead of busy dabbing it in oil, cooking oil, you can just have it grilled.
Exactly.
Pamakala, on makala, you prepare it there. And then you find that it's even more nutritious than you would have gotten had you overcooked the meal. Anyway, I'm no expert in that particular field, but I'm sure people get the point that yes, indeed, it's very important how we prepare the food, how we consume it, and then there was one element I think I've left out:
food production.
Food production. Yes. What is it that we are producing?
Exactly.
Is it strictly maize?
Yes.
Maize and beans.
Yes.
Are we diversifying?
Exactly.
We need to have diversity so that when disaster strikes, when we are in trouble, as is the scenario now, where we're saying people don't have anything to eat, there should be something that can come in handy in the immediate term. While we're trying to explore other options, we can be able to say, oh, that's the case. I think here in the district we have a lot of sweet potatoes. Why don't we utilize the sweet potato? Perhaps let's explore. I've seen during the few days that agriculture officials and other organizations have been holding, where they show, a sweet potato. Let's transform it into something else.
Exactly.
We have a lot of cassava here. How do we make cassava? I wanted to talk about kondole.
Yes.
Ufa kondole, things like those. How do we prepare such foods so that at least there is enough to go around? Because sometimes people might be suffering to say, oh, we don't have food, we don't have maize. But then when these alternatives are available, they can be actually exploited, well exploited, and you find that people will be having enough within their home, but just because they don't know how to prepare such foods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Steve, we should take a very short break and then we'll be back with the program.
No problem.
Sure. I'm having Steve Dagalida. He's the assistant Malawi news editor here at Times. He's helping us to discuss the topic of looming hunger. We just read a report by the MVAC Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee saying about 1.5 million people in the country face hunger in the country. So much so that there will be need for humanitarian food assistance so that these people are cushioned from this particular looming hunger. We take a very short break. We'll be back soon after this so that we can get into our international segment. Welcome back to the Cauldron. This is where editors meet. And in this today's edition, I have Steve Dakalida. He is the assistant Malawi news editor here at Times. My name is Jawes Banda. Once again, this is the Cauldron where editors meet. We meet and discuss issues that have an impact, things that are making round in our social media and of course in the traditional media. And today we have had this particular topic of looming hunger, in which we have discussed a report of the Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee. The MVAC is composed of ministries, departments and agencies of government, plus the UN is also there and other international organizations. They go about looking at the situation in terms of food availability, nutrition and so many other things concerning food and non-food issues that Malawians do have access to. Steve, once again, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Sure, let's get into the international segment. Last week, we saw an election, or two, if not a week ago or two or so, we saw an election in Zambia, presidential election, or a general election that took place in Zambia. That particular election has ushered in a new president in Zambia in the name of Hakainde Hichilema. A peaceful transition we have seen. President Chakwera was there.
Yep.
We also saw so many other African heads of state and government patronizing that particular event. A very memorable event. And again, we could see representatives from the US. We saw representatives from the Middle East coming to Zambia just to grace this particular occasion. Peaceful transition in Zambia. An opposition leader has taken the mantle of presidency in Zambia. What does this mean?
Very, very inspiring, to put it short, in short words. Very inspiring. We even saw how gracious the then president, Lungu, actually was. Yes. In accepting the larger good. Initially, when the results were coming out, of course, there might have been differences here and there.
Yes.
But over and above that, he realized that I think the country is bigger than me.
Exactly.
This country is bigger than my political party.
Yes.
And therefore, the general good of Zambia, the general good of the Southern African region, is what should take priority, which is why he quickly moved in to congratulate his successor, Hakainde
Hichilema.
Yes, Hichilema, or Bari as they fondly call him in Zambia.
Bari, yes.
Yes. So this, I think we should all borrow a leaf from what Zambia has done, especially looking at where Malawi is coming from.
Yes.
I think the only memorable time that we saw such sort of a peaceful transition, if I'm not mistaken, was when we were transitioning from multi-party, from one party to multi-party, where we had President Kamuzu Banda quickly coming in to accept the will of Malawians,
exactly,
to say this is what Malawi needs, this is what Malawians have done, and therefore I congratulate incoming president.
Since then, nothing of the sort that has happened in Zambia has happened in Malawi.
No.
Why has this been the trend in Malawi, that we fail to accept and concede defeat and wish the incoming president well and perhaps give them support and demonstrate to Malawians that individuals are not bigger than the country itself?
Exactly that. It's because of egos, individualism. A lot of people think that when they get into government, this is now their chance to cash in. Much as the demand, as the call is to serve the country, serve the population. But over the years, what we have seen is people have viewed getting into government as a cash cow.
Yes.
But also, because of how people act when they get into the system, into government, most are afraid of, if this one comes in,
Yes.
then they'll be busy clearing the cobwebs.
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
or
tracking the.
Yes.
They'll be tracking where we're coming. The footsteps.
Exactly.
What we had been doing.
if they have been actually doing stuff that has been underhanded,
Yes.
they're afraid that there might be exposure.
Exactly.
They'll be exposed, which is why you see people trying to cling on to power. Whether that is through the ballot or trying to go by unconventional means.
Exactly.
Now, this is what has spoiled the party, which is why you've seen that disagreements have usually marked our transitioning, but it should not be as such.
Steve, one last question. Time is not on our
Yes.
side. You saw that election took place on the 12th of August.
Yes.
Swearing in happened on the 24th, if not 23rd, if I'm not lying.
Yes.
If you count the days, you'd see more than a week elapsed before the swearing in happened. In Malawi, we want to have a president today, a declared winner, and tomorrow the president has to be sworn in. What do we try to cover here? Because if you see Mr. Lungu maintained the presidency, even though he was declared the loser of the election. He still is, because they say there shouldn't be a power vacuum. The president was still, Lungu was still president up until he organized a peaceful transition. He put up, there was a committee that oversaw everything to do with the swearing in. Can't we borrow a leaf from the Zambians who are very close neighbors of ours?
We should. That is the way, that should be the way to go. But like I said, it's because of these other issues that I've mentioned. Egoism, afraid that maybe because due to corruption, somebody would be exposed. But also the power struggles sometimes. This is actually what spoils everything. Even look at what happens in the US. You can hold an election today.
Yes.
It will be next year.
Exactly.
When the next president will come in. Yes.
Because months and months do go.
Yes, the incumbent will have to actually close the chapter.
Exactly.
Properly.
Nicely.
And do the transitioning. But it's because here in Malawi, the politicking, that has been the problem. You don't want to see supporters of Chawezi.
Yes.
Chawezi's party, supporters of Stevie's party, being in unison, coming together, forgetting that yes, we are politicians, but at the end of the day, we are all Malawians.
Exactly.
Where we regard each other with the same brotherhood, the camaraderie.
Exactly.
When it comes
has to be there.
Yes, but when it comes to election time, it's as if it's an all-out war, which is not supposed to be the case.
Beautiful. Steve, we'll take a very last break, then we'll be back for the final lap. We just take a very short break, and then we'll be back with our newsroom segment, and then we'll close the Cauldron for today. Quickly, welcome back to the Cauldron. This is where editors meet. Our final lap in the program for today. Steve,
yes.
We want to get to the newsroom segment. We have got less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
Reporting figures in the newsroom. Because when we say 20 people have died in a car accident, we say 1.5 million people face hunger in the country as per the Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee. Do we have a picture that these are real people with real needs and with real families to take care of or to look after?
In fact, that is where now real journalism kicks in. Yes, we might have those numbers. They might sound, maybe meager. At face value, you might think, it's just a small number.
Exactly.
Or there might be even a necessarily high number. But then, as media, as journalists, the onus is on us now to explore so that we put a face to those figures. If, for example, like in this scenario of people facing hunger, we've looked at various issues. We've talked about maybe somebody having alternative crops at home, alternative food available. Now, for us to realize that this one has an alternative food, it will take a journalist going down on the field and talking to people, one-on-one, engaging them and finding out how is it at a household level.
What does it mean?
Just that one person out there might trigger the exact picture on the ground. Somebody would say, look, you found me here, here are the mangoes that I'm actually eating. This is what has kept me going.
Yes.
There is nothing. You can go into that house, look in there, you find there's no food.
Quickly, Steve, 2 questions.
Yes.
I'll give an example. Last month, there was a tragic accident involving women coming from Chikwawa. 20, if not 21 people died. And in one of our stories, we sent our reporter to the Lower Shire.
Yes.
Thomas Kachere was there. Out of that number of 20 or 21 women who died in that car accident, they said that particular accident has created about 60-something orphans. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. 20 women.
Yes.
So you would see the distribution. Maybe each of the women had 3 or 2 children.
Yes.
So 20 orphans have been created out of that particular accident.
We wouldn't have known that had that reporter not gone down
Exactly.
on the ground. So, which is very important that, yes, we have the figures here, but then when you go down actually on the ground,
There are people.
there are people. That's when you begin to appreciate. In fact, it's not just that there are offers that have been created, but also by and by, we have gotten to know that, in fact, among that group of women, some of them were breadwinners in their
Exactly.
families. So that means now there are families that have been rendered sort of helpless.
Exactly.
You know, because they were relying on some of those women that died. So, very, very important to actually bring the picture to
the people.
to the figures, yes, which is why actually you see now and again stories like the Friday Shakers that we have,
Yes,
where
yes.
actually people now go in depth, go down on the ground in detail. You have special features, specially sanctioned features. These actually, the whole reason, the whole essence is, aside from the hard news that we get, because when you get the figure that hits you straight in the face, that's first of all the hard news. It hits you, yes, and then after the hard news, there's the other side.
Exactly.
Whether it's the soft news or whatever you might decide to call it, but then you now try to put the social aspect to say, okay, let's have the figures and then marry them.
Last one, Steve. We need to part ways.
Yes.
We've heard of companies that have laid off people. Just recently, we heard of a certain company laying off about 500 people.
Yeah.
Those 500 people represent 500 households, and within each of those 500 households are maybe 6 or 7 dependents of that particular gentleman who has lost a job. What does this mean? Is the media in our country able to create that particular picture to say 1 out of the 500 people, just take a look at what has happened in this particular family because of a job loss of 1 out of the 500 people?
That's where we're saying, I think it depends how deep you go down on the ground. Because when you check, when you make the effort to say, okay, this is what has happened, well and good, can we go further and explore behind these figures?
Yes.
That is where now you can get to find that it might not even be 6 people in a household.
Exactly.
This one who has been laid off here has his immediate family. Now, it does not end there. There are even other dependents in the village. Aunties,
brothers,
grandpas, grandmas,
cousins,
and what have you, who are also
in-laws.
Yes, they are in schools. Some of them, this one was meeting their school fees, school uniform.
Yes.
Oh, providing food and what have you.
That's what it means.
Aside their immediate family. So, indeed, as a media, as journalists, the onus is on us to dig deeper, to go down, so that actually we put faces to the numbers that we get every day.
Beautiful, Steve. Thank you very much. I deeply appreciate your presence here. I don't take it for granted.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. That's Stephen Dagalila helping us here today with our program Cauldron. We have discussed the looming hunger in regard to the MVAC report, which indicates that about 1.5 million people in Malawi face food starvation if government does not intervene. So there is need for about 7.9 billion kwacha to be allocated so that these people are cushioned from the looming hunger. We have also taken time to look at the international segment, and today we looked at the peaceful transition that has occurred in Zambia from Mr. Edgar Lungu to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema as the newly elected president there. And again, we have also looked at the figures and the numbers that we present as media people. Do they make sense? What do they mean? My name is Jawes Banda. Until next time, when we are back with the Cauldron here on Times, where editors meet, I'm just wishing you all the best and ask you to continue watching the rest of our programs here on Times.